Good evening. The other day I wrote a story about conversations in heaven, and I've been thinking about whether I should record it, and I decided I will. So I'm just going to go across to it and read it to you, hopefully with some improvisation. So it's entitled Conversations in Heaven. I have this notion of heaven. I arrive and walk and walk and walk through green fields. The sun is always shining, and every so often I come across someone at a coffee shack and sit and have coffee with them. I don't recall arriving, I'm just here and about to walk through the fields when I hear a voice and recognize the man instantly as God. So he says, "Hey, before you start walking, let's have a chat. I've just brewed some coffee for us." He speaks in a Northern Irish accent, by the way. "You see, G, you tend to race ahead and not fully experience the start." Maybe we need to read that again. So God says to me, "Hey, before you start walking, let's have a chat. I've just brewed some coffee for us. You see, G, you tend to race ahead and not fully experience the start." Says I. "Do I?" Says he. "I think so." Says I. "You know, this place reminds me of a spot in the Black Forest. I have a photo somewhere of it. Let me see if I can find it." And actually, I do find it. And if you go to the Medium story, which I will put in the link, hopefully if I remember, you'll see the picture around 1990 when I hitchhiked in Europe and found myself in the Black Forest. And that kind of represented something of what heaven is for me. And then I continued this conversation with God and I say, "And what you just said reminds me of once we went on a holiday to Dunkirk. Dunkirk is a short distance from the ferry port on the French side. I just deliberately decided to do that for the reason you state, to fully experience the start. I understand your point. So often we want to get so far into something that we don't appreciate our starting point." So what this is about is God says to me, I like to rush ahead. So I arrive in heaven and he says, no, before you plow on in there, let's begin here at the start. And what I then do is recall wanting to experience the start when I decided that we would go to Dunkirk, which is on not far from Calais. I don't know, about no more than 20 miles, I wouldn't think. And that was the very reason why I decided to do it, because I was always, or previously, had ploughed through France down, I don't know, Brittany or further, and not really experienced northern France. So I deliberately chose Dunkirk, and we stayed in youth hostel, which is another story in itself, to experience the starting point of France. That's the kind of conversation we're having. And then I said to God, while we're talking, you're the man to ask. I have a group tonight and we're looking at the section in the Sermon on the Mount about fasting. What's your take on it? So this relates to a group I'm involved in that's reading through Matthew's Gospel. So God says, hold on, here's someone you need to be introduced to. Or here comes someone you need to be introduced to. I believe you refer to him as Yeshua. Yeshua even. And then I put in brackets, when speaking with God, I saw many faces of older men who I've connected to in the course of my life. And in brackets I've put father figures. So all these images of people that I may not have consciously realised but have acted as fathers in my life were kind of showing up in the face of God. I also began to see faces of mothers and people that have acted as mothers for me and brothers and sisters, at which point Jesus turns up and says, "So gee, I am." Maybe that's where the brothers and sisters bit were coming from, that God represents the parent and Jesus represents the siblings. So Jesus says, "So I am," and he doesn't say anything more, and I hear no name, just "I am." So, just to explain, you may have heard before, I sometimes refer to Jesus as Yeshua, Yeshua, Eshoa, which sounds like the Aramaic translation of what his name was in Aramaic. So he says, fasting is tied up with spending. To fast is to exercise a greater degree of control of your body. In a similar way, you're exercising control over another part of your life, such as spending. So I say, well, I haven't fasted for a long time. I recall the last time was in Galway 30 years ago, and it was for a week. And yes, it certainly made me more focused on you two, that is God and Jesus, as I was hungry. And in my hunger, I looked to you for strength. But it seemed to get caught up with ego. It reminded me of weightlifters, with those who could do the heaviest weight, saying, "Look what I can do." And so then I end by saying, "Hey guys, it feels like my time is gone and Earth is pulling me back. Next time we gotta walk and talk. I'm keen to see around me. And thanks for the coffee." So, there you go. I better go back to the screen whereby I end